This mysterious region, the Bridgewater Triangle, is known for strange and paranormal occurrences, including mysterious shadow figures, disembodied voices, and possessions. The forests are thick, the rivers winding, and the swamps murky. To the casual observer, it's just another slice of New England. In this place, the echoes of history seem to linger in the air. But beneath this seemingly benign landscape is something far darker and more mysterious. Located in southeastern Massachusetts, the Bridgewater Triangle is approximately 200 square miles. It encompasses several towns, including Bridgewater, Freetown, Abington, and Rehoboth, with Hockomock Swamp at its sinister center. This region has a centuries-old history steeped in the macabre. It was once home to the Wampanoag people, whose sacred lands were overtaken by settlers in the 17th century. The swamp was a place of reverence for the Wampanoag, and many believe the displacement and bloodshed of King Philip's War in the 1670s left a lasting spiritual scar on the land. Cryptozoologist Loren Coleman first coined the term Bridgewater Triangle in the early 1970s after years of collecting stories of unexplained phenomena. In his groundbreaking book Mysterious America, Coleman detailed numerous accounts of people who had experienced something unexplainable within the triangle's boundaries. There are countless stories of unsettling encounters, myths, and legends within the triangle, many of which will make your skin crawl. Here are some of the most bone-chilling accounts from locals and investigators who have dared to enter this haunted realm. It was a cold November night in 1978 when Bill Russo, a resident of the small town of Raynham, was walking his dog along a quiet path near the edge of the Hockomock Swamp, the heart of the Bridgewater Triangle. The swamp, a place of beauty and dread, had long been associated with eerie happenings, its name derived from a Native American word meaning, place where spirits dwell. As Russo walked through the shadowy trail, he noticed a figure in the distance. It was small, perhaps only 4 feet tall, and humanoid, but it didn't move like a child or an animal. It shuffled toward him, issuing a strange, high-pitched noise that sounded like a language but was indecipherable. It called in a voice that chilled Russo to his core. Frozen in place, Russo watched in terror as the figure approached, its glowing eyes piercing the darkness. The creature, whatever it was, seemed to be beckoning him, inviting him to follow it deeper into the swamp. But something inside Russo screamed for him to run, and run he did, pulling his dog along as fast as his legs would carry him. That night, Russo swore he had come face to face with something otherworldly, leaving him shaken for years. Another chilling tale comes from the Freetown State Forest, a thickly wooded area on the southern edge of the triangle, long rumored to be a hotspot for supernatural activity. The forest has seen everything from UFO sightings to mysterious animal mutilations and strange rituals involving fire. But it was in the early 1980s that the forest's reputation took a terrifying turn. That year, police officers were called to investigate a series of unusual reports from the forest. Residents claimed to have seen people dressed in black robes gathering deep within the woods at night. Some even heard disembodied chanting echoing through the trees. In contrast, others found evidence of bizarre, makeshift altars adorned with animal bones and strange symbols carved into trees. Then there's the story of 2 teenage boys from nearby Fall River who, in 1983, ventured into the forest on a dare. The dark and uninviting forest felt oppressive, and soon, the boys realized they were not alone. Walking along the overgrown trails, they stumbled upon a group of hooded figures standing around a fire. The figures turned toward them, their faces obscured by the shadows of their cloaks, but their silent stare was enough to send the boys running for their lives. But the boys didn't just run into the night. They were chased. One of them later claimed that as they fled through the woods, the sound of heavy footfalls followed close behind, accompanied by a low growl that seemed to reverberate through the trees. Though the boys escaped the forest without physical harm, they were left with an intense fear of ever returning. In the aftermath of this encounter, local police increased their patrols. While they found evidence of animal sacrifices and ritualistic activity, they could not apprehend any of the perpetrators. To this day, the Freetown State Forest remains a place of dread for those who live nearby, with many locals refusing to enter the woods after dark. One resident of Abington reported waking up in the dead of night to find a shadowy figure standing in her bedroom doorway. The figure vanished when she turned on the light, but the experience left her shaken. Another local claimed to have seen a ghostly apparition walking along a deserted road in Rehoboth, its eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. But one encounter stands out, an incident so terrifying that it has become the stuff of local legend. It's a story of a group of friends who ventured into the heart of the Triangle, seeking thrills and chills. What they got was something far more sinister. The group had set up camp in a remote area surrounded by dense forest. As night began to fall, they gathered around the campfire, swapping ghost stories and trying to scare each other. But as the hours crept by, the atmosphere grew more ominous. Strange noises echoed through the forest, and the group felt like they were being watched. One of the friends, a skeptic, decided to investigate the strange occurrences. He wandered into the darkness, his flashlight casting eerie shadows on the trees. Suddenly, he let out a blood-curdling scream, and the group rushed to his aid. What they found was terrifying. Their friend was possessed, his eyes rolling back in his head as he spoke in a voice that was not his own. The group was paralyzed with fear and unsure of what to do as their friend continued to talk in a language that sounded like no human tongue. The situation was dire, and the group knew they had to act fast. They managed to subdue their possessed friend and get him to a hospital, where he was eventually exorcised. But the experience left them all shaken, and they never ventured into the Bridgewater Triangle again. The Bridgewater Triangle's darkness doesn't end with ghosts and monsters. In the late 1970s, the area was rocked by the discovery of several gruesome murders that took place in Fall River on the outskirts of the Triangle. These murders, later known as the Fall River Cult murders, were linked to a group that dabbled in satanic rituals and sacrifices. The ringleader, Carl Drew, was a notorious criminal and self-proclaimed Satanist who used fear and intimidation to control his followers. The group was involved in a series of brutal murders, including the ritualistic killing of 20-year-old Karen Marsden, who was found decapitated in a remote area of the Freetown State Forest. The details of the case were horrifying. Drew and his followers believed they were offering human sacrifices to Satan, and their methods were as brutal as they were depraved. The case sent shockwaves through the region and cemented the Bridgewater Triangle's reputation as a place where evil thrived. Drew was eventually captured and sentenced to life in prison. Still, the stain of the murders left a permanent mark on the area. Even today, residents of Fall River and the surrounding town speak of the murders in hushed tones, unwilling to delve too deeply into the darkness that once consumed their community. While some stories of the Bridgewater Triangle involve physical beings, whether human or otherwise, many encounters are with entities that exist on a different plane of reality. The Taunton State Hospital, a psychiatric institution that once stood in the Triangle, is home to some of the most disturbing tales of paranormal activity. Built in the mid-1800s, the hospital was notorious for its harsh treatment of patients. It became a symbol of the mistreatment and cruelty that plagued mental institutions in that era. Over the decades, countless people died within its walls, and many were subjected to torturous treatments like electroshock therapy and lobotomies. It's no surprise that the hospital gained a reputation for being haunted. Former staff members and visitors have reported seeing ghostly figures wandering the halls, particularly in the basement, which was used for some of the more inhumane practices. People have claimed to feel invisible hands brush against them, and others have heard whispers and disembodied voices from empty rooms. One nurse who worked at Taunton in the late 1960s told how she once felt a cold gust of air rush past her as she walked through the basement corridor. When she turned to see what had caused it, she saw a shadowy figure standing at the end of the hall. It appeared to be a man dressed in an old-fashioned suit, but his features were blurred as if he existed in two places simultaneously. When the nurse blinked, the figure was gone, leaving her shaken and terrified. The hospital was eventually closed and demolished, but the land it once stood on remains eerie and unwelcoming. Even after its demolition, locals claim that strange lights are sometimes seen near the site, and ghostly apparitions continue to haunt those brave enough to visit the area after dark. For those who have experienced the Triangle's supernatural forces firsthand, like Bill Russo and the boys in the Freetown Forest, the question is not whether these phenomena are real. It's why they persist. What is it about this region that attracts such darkness? Is it the land itself, cursed by the blood spilled during King Philip's War? Or is it something deeper, something that we may never fully understand? People have been drawn to the Bridgewater Triangle for decades, hoping to glimpse the supernatural. Some theorize that the area's unique geography plays a role, with its labyrinth of forests, rivers, and lakes creating a nexus of spiritual energy. Others believe that the Triangle's dark history, marked by tragedy and bloodshed, has imprinted an evil power on the land. Whatever the reason, one thing is sure: the Bridgewater Triangle is a place where the veil between the worlds is thin, and the fabric of reality is fragile. These aren't the only mysterious paranormal stories. Watch these videos for more spooky tales. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more paranormal content. I'll catch you in the next video.